taxes, keeping my books straight, running a profit and loss statement, it all gets so confusing. I used to spend more time trying to worry about my taxes and if I'm doing them right than I actually did working on my business. I needed a solution. That is when I found Core Financial. Core is a team of tax professionals that actually care about real relationships with their clients. From the moment I hired Core, I was able to trust that I will be fully taken care of. They run my books, keep me up to date with my finances, and make sure I'm taking full advantage of all the tax breaks I qualify for. Are you struggling to understand your finances? Do you need help making sure you don't make any mistakes? Look no further. Core Financial. Both Nick and I are huge fans of Core Financial, and we know you will be too. Check out howtofilmweddings.com/core to see what they can do for you. Core Financial. Real relationships, no surprises.
Taking on more debt and then rationalizing it by saying, oh, when I get this $10,000 loan, I will be good with money. Like, if you are bad at something, taking more of that thing and then thinking that this thing will make you a good at that thing, that's not the case. You know, it's like a couple who is struggling, you know, in their marriage, and they decide to have a child because that'll make everything better.
Hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is John Bunn. It is a brand new week. We're really excited. I'm joined again by my co-host, my good friend, Mr. Nick Miller. Nick, hi. How are you?
Hi. I'm doing really well today. It's the last week of school for our kids, so our daughter's really excited. Our son, they're having a parade at his school where all the teachers are going to line up on the sidewalk, and we can drive by and he can wave at Miss Coco. He's very excited to wave at Miss Coco. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and my mom is gonna come hang out with us this week, which is
that is rad.
It's gonna be a nice break, you know, to have her here. She hasn't seen we're recording this in May, and the last time she saw the kids was Thanksgiving, and this is like the longest she has ever gone in her life without seeing Piper. So she's like chomping at the bit to see the kids, and we're excited for her to be here. And Jen and I are like, hey, the restaurants are open. We can like go on a date and sit 10 feet away from somebody and, you know, like have some time to us. So anyway, that's what we're going on in our world. What about you?
Well, we this morning drove by my daughter's school to pick up all the stuff through a line, kind of like a parade, and socially distant, of course. And so they had like a bag with her name on it, and we've moved into full-on, you know, relaxation summer mode. The weather in Tulsa, I don't know about in Wichita, but the weather's been
amazing.
Unreal. We got they had the chimenea going this weekend. We ate 3 meals on our back deck yesterday, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Just grilling out, went swimming yesterday. So it's, you know, amidst all of this stuff, it's been like, I'm so thankful for this because it's typically, you know, at this time of the year already pretty humid and pretty hot, so enjoying that. And then also, you know, last week's episode, we talked all about like COVID-19, what we've been doing, struck a chord with a lot of people on our, you know, should you return a retainer conversation. People really told us how much they disliked that kind of content, and just being more real with, you know, our answers and a healthy debate around certain subjects and things. And so, you know, after last week, you know, just absorbing all of the comments and everything, you know, Nick and I really wanted to kind of expand into a little bit more when it comes to something that's very, you know, important to all of us, no matter where you're at in the world. And that is just the subject of money. And, you know, we've had lots of episodes about money in the past and like what we do and how much we make and all these things. But like, just the subject of money itself it seems a little bit taboo, or people don't really want to talk about it, and we all deal with money, but like you just can't really, like the conversation's always a little uncomfortable. So I'm not like uncomfortable talking about it, but I feel like that there's so many people out there that don't know how to handle their money, and they don't know it, and it feels like you shouldn't talk about it, and it feels like a subject that it's like, well, I suck at money, and I don't know how to do these things, and we just wanted to kind of talk to you all about like what we've been doing with our money, how we've been generating money, how much money we've been losing through all of this. I'm a natural spender, not a natural saver, but I've learned over the years this, slow and steady drip into my savings account, all these different things. And so we just wanted to have an open conversation about that. I know, Nick, you and I talk about money a lot, just about how we can be good stewards of our money. So whenever things like this happen, we are ready. So
one thing that I want to touch on before we dive into this, I know that so many of you have listened to our podcast, and you probably have that feeling that, oh, John and Nick have it all together. They're talking about making $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 per wedding, and you're like, man, if I could only do that, then I would be set, and all this stuff. I want to encourage you, if you haven't yet, go back and listen to episode number 34. The title of the episode is Never Overdraft Your Bank Account Again, or something like that. But in that one, I actually open up and share, a lot of the struggles that me and my wife have had, with money, and how in that episode I was like, last spring I had to do some stuff because we were not going to pay our bills in the next couple of weeks if I didn't, change some things and do something kind of drastic all of a sudden. So money is definitely something that from the outside, a lot of people, look at us and they might think, man, these guys have it all together, but that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, and I would encourage you too on top of that. So I think a lot of us think, well, when I charge that much, then I will get my stuff in order when it comes to my money. Or if I made that much, like you're saying, it's like, well, that would be easy. But what I've realized is that I couldn't move to the next level in my business until I got the things in order at an early stage. So I might have been bringing in six figures, but spending six figures plus because I wasn't paying good enough attention. And I was taking weddings that I didn't need to be taking because I didn't realize that I had enough money coming in, which made it where I got backlogged, which gave me, burnout, and so if you're in a position now where you're out of money or I would very heavily encourage you have to start paying attention. You can't just look at the end of the month and just be like, well, I'm negative, or I made it, and so as soon as I really started paying attention to getting things organized and in order, I mean, most of our bills every month are the same every month. You can get those in order. You can know when money's going to be coming out. You can, plan ahead. You can look and say, oh, I've got this many weddings booked. This is how much on the books contractually obligated money I'm going to make this year. That helps you make different decisions. That helps you make, know if you need to get more or less. And so if you're out there listening and you think, oh yeah, these guys, have it together. I didn't start having commas or at least a comma in my bank account until 5-6 years until, I was in business. And if I would have started paying attention to that earlier, nobody just hands you a six-figure check usually. It's little bits over time, and that adds up. And so, and on the other side of it too, we get it that the struggle right now, Nick, is very real. I have lost a lot of money because of COVID-19, and I'm sure you have as well. And so, Nick, what things have you had to struggle with when it comes to money since COVID-19?
I mean, the biggest thing is when you have this money that you're expecting to come in and then it doesn't, right? Thankfully, I haven't had any of our weddings cancel on us as of, today recording this podcast, but I have had weddings move later in the year or into next year. And one of the things that, it's one of those things that I think that some of us are having trouble with when it comes to money and realizing with money is us as small businesses might be struggling somewhat when it comes to getting in money too. But guess what? so is the rest of the country. So are so many other people in our world struggling with money. So when a client says, hey, I know I have this payment due on June 1st, but because we're moving our wedding to April of 2021, when it was supposed to happen in June of 20, can I just defer my payment? And a lot of people are like, no, I need my money. Like I need my money. But what you might not be realizing is the people that are paying you might not have the money because of what is going on. It's like, it's not just us that are being affected by this. It's not just our city. It's not just our state. It's our entire world is being affected by this. And so I think one of the things that we really need to do is realize that and understand that and be empathetic. And maybe you say, hey, I appreciate and I know where you are, but this is my sole livelihood. Is there any way maybe we could, let's say you owe me $2,000. Is there any way we can split that up into $400 or $500 payments made over the next year rather than one $2,000 lump sum? Negotiate with them, talk with them, let them, hey, I know you have financial trouble, but so have I. And so that has been one of the biggest challenges, I guess, is people changing their dates and then want to change their final due balance. That's been kind of interesting to navigate through. On the plus side, we were supposed to shoot a wedding in Yosemite, and I don't know if you've ever been there, but like Airbnbs are not cheap. We got it all back, so like, yeah. That was a little bonus there that we got to take back. But that's probably the biggest.
Yeah, for me, like what you were just saying about being empathetic with people, that has saved me the most, because for us, whenever this happened, I think you said that you had reached out to all your couples, and I was just gonna kind of let it happen. And then I was just like, wait a sec. No, I need to reach out to people that are getting married in May and June just to like get ahead of this. And if you haven't already, there's still time. But being in communication and just having them remember, because if you're a bride and groom or a couple and you don't know if your wedding day is going to happen, it's not 1,000,000% the first thing on your mind. Like, oh, I need to make sure that Nick is going to get his paycheck. It's like, oh my goodness, I might lose out on, $80,000 of payments. They're freaking out. And so, a nice calm voice of reason, I would recommend a phone call or a Zoom call. Face-to-face is best, like face-to-face through, telecommunications or whatever, but I don't know. Like
telecommunications.
I'm like 1,000. I know what I meant, but yeah, face to face is going to be way harder for like if you're just like, hey, how's it going, and then reiterating in a way that doesn't feel like you're boxing them in. Of like, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing for my couples. I want you to get first right of refusal on a different day, and just kind of walking through that with them so they remember that you're a person and not just a business. For me, that has helped tremendously. Like, I've had one wedding cancel, and it was a package I had booked a year and a half ago. So it wasn't like the largest package that I had for the year, but it was still, I think, like $6,200 or something, which is a lot of money. And they canceled on me. I kept the retainer, but like, that one hurt because it was just like they were hard to, they didn't empathize back with me, and sometimes that's going to happen. And I'm going to be honest, like I had a solid week where I was just like, man, I suck. Like I'm terrible. And then several other vendors from the same wedding were like, did you have a problem with so-and-so? And like, it turns out that like that specific person, that couple wasn't being kind to all their vendors, great. But like it still didn't feel good. And it doesn't feel good to lose this money.
No. One thing that I, going along those lines, which I kind of equated to, and it's sort of similar, but sort of not, if you are upfront and talking with your couples and being open and having communication with them, I think they are more likely to work with you and, try and do something else. You kind of equate it to, whenever you were a kid and you did something, and you realize that it would be better for you to tattle on yourself rather than have your parents find out. and then, the hammer come down. It's a little different, but it's kind of that same thing, right? Where if I'm opening the communication and I'm talking to them and they understand, my situation, and I can understand their situation, and they can tell that I actually care about them as a couple, then whenever I say, hey, I really think that you should consider, moving your wedding to, this fall. Maybe have you looked at a Friday? Have you looked at a Sunday? Have you looked at a Thursday? Rather than them just saying, hey, COVID-19 happened, I have to cancel, give me all my money back, this is, just all sorts of stuff. That has saved me a lot by because that first week, whenever Honeybook, they sent out a lot of email resources about, reaching out to your couple and touching base with them. And so we had kind of one email that went out to all our April and May weddings. And then another email, because this was back in March, and then another email that went to our June through the rest of the year weddings, and just letting them know how we were handling it and what we were going to do and all that stuff. So again, communication up front, being empathetic, caring for them. You might be out, $3, $4, $5,000, but like John said, they're paying, 40, 50, 60, 200,000, they might be out on all this stuff. So there's just lots and lots of stuff to consider.
Yeah. And as we, are kind of, I don't think we're through this by any means, but the United States is opening back up in lots of areas, and people, in Oklahoma right now, weddings are scheduled to be back on as of May 15th, which is a couple weeks ago, that kind of thing. I'm scheduled for 7 different days in June to be either at a rehearsal dinner or a wedding day. As everything opens back up, it's like now we're like getting like, it's weird because nobody knows, like, is it going to spike and we have to go back, and so like this episode, we wanted to start talking about money and how, like, if it just, like, you don't need to just go back to the ways you were doing things before this, because you never know, like, nobody planned for this to happen, or could have said, like, this is going to happen, so you need to buckle down. And so for me, and what we're doing is, like, we're taking advantage of all of the things that we can take advantage of, whether that be stimulus money or different things, but we're also not, no frivolous spending right now, nothing. If it doesn't help my business grow, or if it doesn't make me money, I'm not buying it right now. I'm doing my best to pay my bills. We're not buying extra random stuff. It's not like I'm buying a $1,200 pair of sneakers with a stimulus check. I'm focused on holding things down and weathering this storm. Once the storm is over, you can always take the money that you saved and set aside and apply that to wherever you are in your life. And if you have a huge chunk of money set aside, I would rather be safe than sorry, because the thing that I'm most concerned about right now in my business is that the world opens back up for June and July and August, and everything looks great. But then, like, September and October, it starts to, people start really getting sick with coronavirus again or whatever, and there's no vaccine. And all of our fall weddings say, we're sorry, we're moving till next summer. And at that point, we're going to have to either transition them to a peak date in 2021, but we could be out, 6 figures at that point for my company, which means to me, I'm not buying, unless the R5 comes out, side note, unless that camera comes out, I'm not buying anything, I'm not trying to, and you have to be wise, and you have to run a business. And what this has shown me during this time is there's a difference between somebody, life has been good since like 2008 and 9, with the economy, and like most of you all out there haven't had to go through anything like this. And I was in business, I started in 07, and in 08, 09 is when the real estate bubble burst, and like everyone was freaking out and no one was doing weddings, and it wasn't to this nature, but I thought, I'm never getting myself in this pickle again. And so for me, though, it's just like the ones that know how to run, not like geeky run a business, but just have paid attention to their numbers, have money set aside, these little boring principles that aren't flashy and fun. If you've done those things right now, you're in a place of peace. And that is where I'm sitting right now, is a place of peace, not comfort, but peace. And so, yeah.
So we wanted to just touch, and I know we've kind of shared some of these tips, before, but if you don't have any money or you are in serious need of some cash right now, try to be thinking of some ways that you can make money. And as we've said this before, it's kind of an old business adage, but it's way easier to sell a client that you already have than it is to find a brand new one. So what are things that you can do to sell current clients or past clients? We've talked about, selling hard drives of raw footage, talking that maybe you don't offer ceremony with your package, or, these doc FOMO kind of edits. Reach out to them and say, hey, letting you know, normally this is $500, but I'm charging, $350 or $400 for this specific thing. Give them a little bit of a discount. Think of ways that you can reach clients that you already have, and sell them on certain things. That can go a little bit away, because let's say it's $500, but you get four previous clients to do that. That's a couple $1,000s that can, I know, really, really help you out, especially whenever you're short on cash. One thing that John turned me on to, actually, that he said that he had done before is, if you're short on money, reach out to a client that's in the future and say, hey, if you pay in full today, I will give you 10% off, or I will give you, extra coverage, or I will give you, hard drive, raw footage, any of that kind of stuff. So it kind of gives them incentive to pay in full today, so that you can, help to make ends meet, just a little bit. I know I did that whenever I was down in a couple, like, absolutely, let's do that. And it got me through, a month that was really, really tough.
Yeah. And, that in my opinion is a situation where you're basically in need of a miracle. And that's kind of where a lot of us are. And so there's two different kinds of ways to look at this. Is like, you're in need of a miracle, or you've prepared for the storm. And I don't want to ever get back to a place where I'm in need of a miracle and where it's like, oh my goodness, I need a bailout. Luckily, like in the United States, they're providing certain things in different parts of the world to like increase cash into your account and things like that. But, where Heather and I sit is that, like, without anything being given to us, we could have made it about a year without needing a paycheck, and that's amidst paying for, school for our kids and daycares and different everything. Like, but it didn't just like so happen to be where it's like, wow, we have a year worth of income set aside. It was like a slow, painstaking, and like, I don't want that to go away. That was security, for us. And so, but like whenever this all started to happen, my first reaction wasn't to freak out, but it was like, okay, I'm getting ready for this storm. Like, I've already prepared a storm shelter. I'm going to get in the shelter. I'm going to use it. But at the same time, it's like, I'm sitting here thinking, like, how can I make sure that, like, while this is happening, that I'm not just throwing my hands up and being like, well, oh well. And so I did send out, with our clientele being more on the higher end, and if they're hiring a wedding videographer, usually they're in a good position in their lives with their families, whatever, and that we do photography. And so it was like, we initially just immediately sent out a few messages, to people. I sent a text to all my brides from 2019 that didn't buy hard drives, and just said, hey, our hard drives are usually 1,000. With all this going on, like if there's, we're running a special, if you're looking for a good place to support local, I'd be, my family would appreciate it, but in a way that wasn't like using my family. It wasn't, but it was like, this is happening, or, kind of running a 50% off hard drive special. Like, if you're wanting, and several people did that. And same thing, like, I didn't need it, but like, I'm okay with like storing up as much as I can right now in case of, hopefully October, November, December happens, and by then, the world is different and back to a safer position, and people are spending money. But like, I wouldn't say to anybody out there like, oh, okay, America's opening back up, just start going crazy again with your money or whatever. But now is a great time. Like, the world pushed pause, and it's like, you can get your stuff in order right now. And you have to be working on that every month, or this kind of situation will happen again, and you're going to need a bailout, and you're going to need that miracle. And I would rather you have a shelter. And so creating that shelter will get you to a place where you're not freaking out, you're not taking a ton of bookings you don't need, and all that kind of good stuff. And then another thing, just if you're in a position, where you are out of money and you need money now, like I don't recommend, hey, let's get a credit card and get 30% interest on, groceries. If you have to do it, you have to do it. But we have all of this gear setting aside, and it's like you have assets, you have things. It's like you might need to unload some of that stuff. Yeah. If I needed to, I've got a handful of C100s behind me where it's like, okay, they're, $2,500 cameras. I'm putting them online for $1,800 and getting rid of a couple of them. And that buys me a month of time, and I'll rent a camera for a few months, or, there's different, but you have to be proactive. You can't just sit back and be like, well, I hope everything's going to be all right, because the government isn't like going to be just bailing you out. Like they're doing things to help, but like, they're not sitting there thinking like, hey, how can I make sure Nick Miller is good? You need to be on the ball with this kind of stuff. So
yeah, definitely. So hopefully you've taken some notes, or some things have stuck out with you this first part of our little conversation here. We're getting ready to go on a break, but whenever we go back, we're going to talk about maybe setting up some multiple revenue streams so that when situations like this arise, you're prepared a little bit better.
So tell me, what CRM do you use? If you're not sure, or you don't know what a CRM is, I'm about to save you a lot of time and therefore money. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. Basically, a CRM is an online service that helps you better serve your clients. HoneyBook is both mine and John's CRM of choice. We absolutely love it. HoneyBook allows us to do all of our correspondence, contracts, and payments all in one place. One of the features that I love is the automated workflow. We all have emails that we send out to all of our clients, right? At 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, the week of. All of us do it. Automated workflows make it so that those emails can go out automatically. Since I don't have to take time to, 1, remember to send them out, and 2, to write them, I save time and make more money by working more efficiently. Are you interested in saving time on the business side of things? Go to howtofilmweddings.com/honeybook for a free 1-week trial. Also, because the Honeybooks really like me and John, we can give you $200 off of your first year, and that also comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Go to howtofilmweddings.com/honeybook to start saving lots of time in your business. Oh yeah, legally I have to tell you that John and I are affiliates of HoneyBook.
And we are back. Now we wanted to shift the conversation just a little bit into revenue streams, having multiple revenue streams. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I mean having different pools where you actually get paid money. So you make over here on weddings, or you make some from a full-time job, or you have another side hustle or something like that where money comes from different places. So you're not counting on just one thing. I know John has lots of thoughts on this, so I'll get started with what he has to say, and then I will be sure to chime in whenever I get an opportunity to.
Yeah, well, I always have lots of thoughts on everything, as you well know. I try to keep most of them, in my head. But on this subject, for sure, like if, about 5 years ago, I realized, at my 30th birthday, I'm 35 now. I was just like, okay, at 40, do I want to be shooting weddings only? Do I want to be doing other things? 45, am I going to be 50 doing this? Do I want to be? And not that I don't want to be, but I just started thinking I need to not have all of my eggs in one basket. I need to figure out a way to make more, make money when I'm sleeping, and make money from things besides weddings, because, the cycle of wedding filmmaking, you get paid to shoot, you shoot the wedding, you edit it, you get the money. You're done making money from that client. You might make a little bit. You might get a referral, but you're really kind of done. You're done making the money. If you're a photographer, you can sell some prints. but there's a limit to what you can make for that work. And then what do? You consume that money, you pay your bills, you buy groceries, you pay your rent, and now you need more money. And so it's like, oh, okay, I need to go shoot another wedding. And then you kind of get into this routine where it's like, oh, well, I've got 8 weddings to edit. I've already been paid for these weddings. I'm not making money from these weddings anymore, but now I owe myself those edits, or I can pay somebody to help me edit, but now I don't have the money to. And so like the wedding video world is great and pays well, and there's so many benefits, but if you're not paying attention and focusing, you're like, you can get yourself in a pickle. And so you make your money, you spend it. You make your money, you spend it. And it's like, wow, I'm not like getting ahead. I'm saving money each month, but like, I would like to do something where I film it once and then I can sell it a bunch of times, or I make something once and I can sell it a bunch of times, or I can make money, on YouTube videos or on different things like that. And so I just got really intrigued with, I think the word passive income I don't like that word a lot. Like, I feel like passive income, there's things you can do to make money while you're not working or whatever. And some sleazy people really sell like this idea of like mailbox money and passive income, which I don't really like. I don't want to get into that. But anyway, I wanted to create multiple streams coming into my account. I liken it to like it's raining. The rain represents money, and I want to put out as many buckets as I can to catch the money while it's raining. Does that good? You like that?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
So
I do.
Anyway, I just thought, okay, how am I going to do this? I personally don't like commercial work, and I know that that's a thing people do, but that still to me was, and I think it's a great extra stream of revenue, but I just wanted, like, whenever I first got going, I filmed dance recitals and I filmed football games, which was fun. But what I really loved about dance recitals is that I would film it once and then I would sell it 350 times. There'd be dance studios with 1,000 kids, and I would, set up, and it'd be $50 for a DVD of this dance recital. I'd set up 4 cameras or 3 cameras. I'd edit together this thing, and then, hundreds and hundreds of people would purchase this one thing. And, if you think $50 times 100, or 300, you're like, wow, that's a $15,000 payday. And so like, I really love this idea. And I always thought it was so funny when I had the DVD duplicator, where it would be 32 discs at a time. I would put in one DVD of a dance recital, put 32 blank ones in, hit a button, and it would burn for a few minutes. And then the tray would open up and I would say, I'm printing money, because it was like, hey, the money's coming out of the disc. Like that's all those are money. And so I just loved the idea, especially, that with football. Like, I just sell all these copies, multiple copies. I loved things like that I could make money by doing it once. And then, so, for us, when it came to multiple streams of revenue, I thought, oh, if I can get YouTube going, like I can film a video once, and if it goes, I have a soldier coming home video that has 6-point-something million views, and every month it makes $200 or $300, like every month still. And it's just like, well, that's great. Like, that's a nice help. And so, like, once this all happened, I started realizing it's like, okay, we have money coming in from Redeemed Productions. We have money coming in from our mutual funds that are making money. And we have money coming in from other investments, and then from YouTube and from and so I think most of us just are almost afraid to think about how to start doing those things. And they're not worth it to people because it's not a lot of money at the beginning. And so, about 5 years ago is when I realized I couldn't always do these weddings. And that's when I started building the YouTube channel. That's when I started thinking about doing education and how to film weddings and things like that. And because of that, although the stream over here of wedding films is drying up a little bit, like money's coming in from the stream over here on like educational things that we're doing, or from my mutual funds, or from, and so I would encourage you, if you're listening, like, I know that like if your house is on fire right now, it's kind of hard to think about anything else except for the house being on fire. But if you aren't taking the time to think about multiple streams of revenue, you're never going to build to a place where there are multiple streams of revenue.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Nick? I see you looking over there.
Well, one thing that I was thinking that I wanted to point out on, yes, we're not shy about it, but we do, we have sponsors and we do make money from How to Film Weddings. We have our shop and affiliate links and, all that kind of stuff. So we do make some money from that. But one of the things that we did was we did this for when you include before we started the podcast and we just had a YouTube channel. I mean, we were doing this for over a year and making $0. Okay. Mm-hmm. We were not making any money and we were doing it for about a year. And so it wasn't until after we consistently did certain things for a year that's when we got our first sponsor, and then we got another one, and then we got another one, and then we made our course and we sold that. And so whenever it comes to multiple streams of revenue, unless you just happen to fall in and do something at the right place in the right time and get really lucky, it can be, okay, I'm building this thing and this is more work. If you want to take it, you have your wedding business and you want to jump into the corporate world or corporate work. Yes, you have the expertise because you're a wedding videographer or a wedding filmmaker to do that, but it's a totally different world getting into corporate stuff. It's just a different animal. It's different doing that kind of stuff. So it might take you a while to figure out the ins and the outs, to figure out how to price yourself, to figure out how to do sales meeting and pitches and that kind of stuff. And so you might have to do stuff for, like you're starting in weddings, really cheap or for free or something to kind of build up for a while, but eventually then you can have this other stream that is going to come in, another bucket to catch the money rain. And it's okay for it to take a while. One of the things that, I talked about on our episode last week is when this happened, it was like everything for everyone shut down. Like forward thinking kind of stopped. Goal setting kind of stopped. And if you're at a place where, okay, things aren't great, but my house isn't on fire, to use that analogy that John was talking about. Things aren't great, but my house isn't on fire. So what are some goals? What are some things that I can think about to maybe start doing so that I can get some, extra income, extra revenue? What can I do? What am I good at? And it doesn't have to be in the video world. It can be whatever you want to be, whatever you have expertise in. That's totally okay. Just doing stuff to try and find to get more income, more revenue. So when tough times happen, you're not relying on simply one thing to keep you afloat. You have multiple things to help you float, even if you sink a little bit.
Yeah, and the other side of this coin is like, this doesn't have to be a stream of revenue that's some type of a passive something or something that makes money while you sleep, or corporate work. It might just be you need to eat a piece of humble pie and go get a job driving Uber or delivering pizza or working the mailroom at a company. Like, there is no shame in that. No. And that is way better and way more honorable than getting yourself in a position where you can't make it. And, like I say it all the time, but it's like, I don't care what other people think about me. I'm doing this for myself and my family first. And if somebody looks at me, a friend is like, oh, I can't believe he's driving Uber. It's like, I don't care what they think. Like that's what I would need to do to get there. And I will say, like, I think it was 4 years ago, there was a few months there where like I signed up for Uber and got my car, everything ready, and was like, if nothing comes in by this date, babe, I'm going to go drive Uber. Like I'm going to provide for my family. And luckily, something came in. But like, I remember sitting down with my wife, Heather, and having that conversation, like, I got to do what I got to do, and I'm going to put food on our table and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But again, it all comes back to getting yourself in a position where you know your numbers, you know your B word, your budget, like, that kind of thing. And I can't tell you, it feels like scary to put together a budget, but basically all you really need to do is put all of your income minus all of your expenses. And you need to make sure that you are accounting for all of those things. And so I know that, Nick and I talked about this beforehand, but in our shop, is our budget spreadsheet. This is the exact spreadsheet. It's an Excel spreadsheet or whatever that is how I run my business from, beginning to end every month. It's a 12-month look at your calendar, so you can see, and it has all the recurring months down the first column, and then place for your income, like what's in your bank account. It's very simple. Nina helped me develop it, but it's made it where I can see, if I get a new client in Honeybook, I can add their payment to June when it's going to come in, or July. It helps me see the things that I need to see at a glance, which has given me such confidence instead of what it used to be like. It felt like there was papers in a closet and I shoved the closet closed. And it's like, I hope everything works out okay. And
sure,
obviously with COVID-19, we've seen that's not the case. And so that budget spreadsheet is $35, which we feel like, is going to save you hundreds or thousands. But through all of this, Nick and I really want to hook up as many people and take care of you. So we're doing a 50% off promo. So $17, $17.50 for this sheet if you want it. You can make one on your own. This isn't like a rocket science kind of thing. But if you go to howtofilmweddings.com/shop and type in the promo code MONEY, all caps, MONEY, that will give you 50% off the budget spreadsheet if you really need that. And we're going to have that promo go until the end of May. So if you're listening to this after May, that promo is over. But again, howtofilmweddings.com/shop, promo code MONEY. So with that, there is a lot that comes with it. The main thing, involves debt. Should you have it? Shouldn't you have it? We're going to talk all about that right after this break. Do you remember that wedding from a month ago? Yeah, like that one that you needed to start editing yesterday? But you also need to prep today for your wedding tomorrow, and you're leaving for your first vacation in forever on Monday. So what do? It seems that the only creative part of your edits are the excuses you're going to have to give your clients. We have the solution, Wedditor. Wedditor is a team of top wedding editors, project managers, and account coordinators that help us wedding filmmakers edit. They match the right editors with your style so you can spend your time where it matters most, on your business. Nick and I both use Wedditor, and we don't know how we would run our companies without them. It takes a team to build an amazing business, and you shouldn't try to do it all on your own. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/Wedditor to help you free up your time so that you can focus on growing your brand. Be sure to use promo code HTFW for $50 off your first project. Wedditor, more than freelance, more than outsourcing. We know the time suck that is searching for the perfect song for your wedding film. MusicBed has spent years collaborating with artists, bands, and composers to make it easier than ever for anyone to find the right song for their video.
With amazing artists like Chapters, Tony Anderson, and The Light, The Heat, MusicBed is the best place for wedding videographers to get licensed music.
Their subscription service was a life changer for me, especially since all of their subscription music is pre-cleared for every social media platform: Facebook, Instagram, Love Stories TV, and my personal favorite, YouTube, all pre-cleared.
And if you are interested in a free month of a MusicBed wedding subscription, head over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. When you sign up, use the promo code HTFW and you will get your first month for free.
All right, and we are back from break. I wanted to start this section with our question of the day presented by Wedditor. Wedditor, more than freelance, more than outsourcing. I love this question and I love this whole talk, and I'm excited to know what you think, Nick. The question is, should you ever take on debt for your business?
It's a really good question. It's a deep question. I will preface all of this by saying currently our business, Wild Oak Films, we have zero debt. So we don't have any debt for our business. Personally, with student loans and house, that's a different conversation. We have it there, but for our business, we don't have any. And so, for me to come at this question, I don't have debt, so I don't know kind of the burden, at least from a business side, what that can do. I will say, my gut says I've been, I think we took a loan from my grandma to buy some camera gear like 7 years ago or something like that. And I think that was the last time I ever took any business debt on. And it wasn't a ton. Like she, was like low interest rate and, that kind of stuff. So we got her paid back. And then one day she was just really nice and was like, here, this is forgiven. So, banks probably aren't going to do that for you. So anyway, it has been a positive thing that we haven't had to worry about debt in our business. I will say that. If you can avoid it, I highly recommend avoiding it. I know a lot of banks and companies right now during COVID-19 are halting payments or cutting interest rates or not having any fees if you miss a payment or that kind of stuff. But there's some that aren't. They're like, hey, we need our money too. And so I feel for people right now that might have debt that they have to pay back. Where it's a few $100s or $1,000 a month or, whatever. So I feel for you. I think the question that you really need to ask yourself is, how bad do I need this money? Whenever, considering how bad do I need it? Is there anything else I could do to get anywhere close near this amount of money? And two, what is it for? What's the purpose of taking this money? And you need to be really real with yourself and honest with yourself. If it's a super, super high interest loan, probably consider not doing that. But, if your house is on fire and you need a water hose and that's the only way you get it, then, you have to do what you have to do to survive. But I think you just need to be mindful of those things. So, should you ever take loan or debt on your business? If you can avoid it, no. But in certain situations, I think that it can be helpful and probably beneficial for your business. So, what say you, John?
Oh man. Should you ever take on debt for your business? I will also say that Redeemed Productions is a debt-free company. I have a very nasty taste in my mouth from debt because I went to a private school and so did my wife on student loan debt, not knowing anything about debt, just signing a piece of paper and going 6 figures into debt each of us, and have been paying that off, and I'm almost done with that. And so in our personal life, we have debt on our home, we have debt on student loans, that's it. We don't have car payments, we don't have debt. We avoid debt for situations like this, where if I had a lot of debt right now, I would be in a world of hurt. All these payments still due, and I think that especially young John, getting car I remember going and getting a Jeep, and just I had to have a Jeep, and it was can I afford the payment, and it was $379 for 6 years or something, and it's well, I don't know how I'm going to get an extra $379, but I can figure that out. That'd be great. I can afford the payment. And that was a really unwise decision for me and my family, because little did I know that actually some student loans were going to kick in, and that my income might drop. And so this question is very interesting to me because, if you're running a company that's bigger, getting some really low interest debt might be the way you want to go. It's cheaper to do that and there's some opportunity with extra capital. If you're getting debt just to avoid the inevitable or avoid bad planning on your part, if you're, oh my goodness, I have $10,000 due, I'm going to go get a loan because I'm screwed if not. That's not wise. And so I'm going to sound like a grandpa. Nick's got his hand up. Yes, Nick?
Well, I wanted to say with that, and maybe you were going to get there, but I'm going to interrupt you because I want to say something. Whenever it comes to debt, if you, let's say you're thinking about maybe taking on some kind of loan or something, if the reason that you need to take it on is because you were bad with money in the first place, is this where you were going? Taking on more debt and then rationalizing it by saying, oh, when I get this $10,000 loan, I will be good with money. If you are bad at something, taking more of that thing and then thinking that this thing will make you a good at that thing, that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's like a couple who is struggling, in their marriage, and they decide to have a child because that'll make everything better. Okay, that's not the case. And so whenever if you're not good with it now, like whenever you're given more of it, you're probably not going to be good with it just because you got more of it.
Yeah, and so that is kind of where I was going. Yes. Like the grandpa in me, having learned over the years, like without debt, I know this is going to be crazy. When without payments, I have money.
Wait,
if I have money, I know.
What?
I know. So having money allows me to have margin. And this is the word that my wife and I have been really focusing on for the last few years, is like, how do we create margin? Not at the end of the month, how can we like have made it? Because I remember years being like, okay, I've got my budget in order. I'm short $1,400 this month. I've got to go out and figure out how to make $1,400 to get to zero. And I would make like $1,486 or something, and be like, whew, I made it through the month. Now, next month, how much do I have to do? And it's like, okay, the margin this month, I've got to make an extra $2,000 to break even to zero. And so many times it was just like, felt like this paycheck to paycheck, and creating room, like creating margin where there's extra money at the end of the month, or where my bank account at the end of the month, after paying all my bills, is more than it was at the beginning of the month. That has, like, so if my bank account had $5,000 in it, I paid all of my bills, but then at the end of the month, I had $6,000. And then at the end of the month, I had $7,000. Like, if it goes up that's the place you want to get to, and where I have been for a while. And that, like, every month, at the beginning of the month, I'm able to pay all of my bills. And then any money that I make is all going to more and more margin. And so that only happened because I knew those numbers. And so debt for me, I don't need debt because I've planned ahead. And so should you take on debt, I've leased cameras before. I've done all of the things, and I just made a decision, like, we're not gonna do debt. Like, I'm sure I could make more money, but again, with the whole skinny dipping, it's like when the tide goes out, who's skinny dipping. And I think a lot of people with debt and payments are caught right now, and there's a lot of stress from that, and there's no shame for that. That's pretty normal in the world to have a ton of debt. But like, for me, I'm wanting to change my family tree, and I'm wanting to, leave inheritance to my children's children. And that's just who I am and so it's different for each person. And so, if I were a big business guy and had a bunch of employees and saw that I could get a line of credit at a 2% interest rate or whatever, like, I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. I'm not sophisticated enough to know that. And all I've seen is that the people in my world that are in debt hate debt. And everything I read about debt has become a curse to people. I'm starting to sound biblical, sorry, with all these Bible words, but like, it's always been a curse to me. I felt enslaved to my debtors, and I'm so excited, after 10 years of being out of college, to just about be done with student loan payments and all that kind of stuff. And so, should you ever take that on your business? I wouldn't, but I don't hate you if you did.
I think that a lot of people, based on their situation in their life, and I'm pretty sure I said this in the podcast episode last week, we use terms like never and always, and just because it works for you and how it is for you, that doesn't mean that is how it should be for someone else. How for those of you that are married, and you say to your spouse, you never do the dishes, how well does that conversation go over, right? Just by using that word,
go over well in
just
my
by
house.
using that word never, okay?
Yeah.
Now, it might be true that I do the dishes more than Jen, or she does them more than me, but just by using that one little word, You're not. And so whenever it comes to business and it comes to you, your situation is different than my situation. It's just me and my family. I don't have employees. John has employees. So he doesn't want to take on debt, but it might be acceptable for him to do that because he has an employee and he actually has an office where I'm just in my house. And there's other people that are running legitimate operations that have, well, I'm a legitimate operation, but you know what I mean, that they have, 5, 6, 10 people that are working for them and they're paying them salaries. And so it's all different. So notice we didn't say you should never take on debt. You should never do that. We're just saying in our lives, in our businesses, how we're running, we would rather not do it if at all possible. Which then kind of leads us into an interesting thing, a question right now, with our country, with COVID, our government has, stepped up and, started giving out, different kind of loans, the EIDL and the PPP and all of that kind of stuff. And so, I know some of that money, most of that money is exhausted. But if you're sitting there and you're like, man, I need some of this. I need to talk to somebody. Is this right for me? A solution that we have would be to reach out to one of our sponsors, which is Core Financial. We have, if you go to howtofilmweddings.com/core, you can reach out to them and you can get in touch with them and they can get you connected with the right types of people and, answer your question about if getting some of this government loan type stuff, if that is right for you and right for your business. And they can answer your question. Is it forgivable? Is it not forgivable? What we know, but things are always changing. And so we recommend, if you need some money like that, especially right now during this time, man, I don't like that phrase. Does that phrase bother you, during this time? Like anytime I'm watching a television show or I'm listening to a podcast, like during this time, and I was trying not to say it and I just said it.
You did.
So sorry. I did. My bad. If that annoys you like it annoys me, reach out to Core. They can help point you in the right direction. Talk to a professional there. So, okay, you can talk now.
Yeah, during this time, I am a huge believer, with the PPP and the EIDL, all these things. Whether it's that for your country or what, if you're listening somewhere else. I know we have a lot of people in Australia, Canada, Europe, different places. But in the United States, the PPP, the Payment Protection Plan, I'm still a little unclear. I think everyone is unclear on what it is, but I applied for both, and here's what I'm doing with it. And so I was approved for the Payment Protection Plan. And without going into too much detail, the amount that I was approved for has been wired to my account, and it's in my account. And I'm talking with Core tomorrow to talk to them personally with Jeremy, my guy that's been on, about like what this money is, what part of it is forgivable or not. But I got it, and I applied for both because I have enough money in my account to pay them all the way off, but if it's not forgivable, and I'm going to use as much of the free money as possible, but I'm not going to take a risk in my business or with my family's debt. So let's just say this. Let's say it was $10,000, okay, that I was approved. That is not the number that I was approved, but if it was $10,000, from what I'm understanding, a percentage of that money is forgivable for my salary and for the rent for my office and some of the utilities that I have, but I'm unclear. And there's like this 8-week window of time where you do things specifically right. And at the end of 8 weeks, part of it's forgiven, maybe. Okay. So it's like, and if it's not forgiven, it's a 1% loan over the course of 12 months or something like that. So of that money that came in, the $10,000 sitting there, which again, that's not the real number. If the $10,000 was sitting there, I'm setting aside an additional $10,000 that's already in my savings account to counteract this in case it's not forgivable. And I'm going to pay my salary, and I'm going to pay my rent, and I'm going to pay as many things as I can with this $10,000. And if at the end of 8 weeks they're like, actually, sorry, you don't get any of that forgiven, I'm going to take the $10,000 from my savings account and apply it over to the loan. Even though it's a 1% loan, I don't want to have a payment. I like the margin that comes from not having a payment. That's what I'm doing. Now, if and that's, with the conversations with my wife, and where it's just like, I will take this money as a loan, but I have the money sitting over here, and if I pay money out of this, I'm keeping this money aside. So if the crap hits the fan, so to speak, I'm just writing a check. I read in the details, that like there's no penalty for paying it off early, anything like that. So that was worth the risk for me, and that's what I've been doing with this.
Yeah, one thing that I was going to say is that you actually have a plan. Okay, I think that sitting down and when it comes to money, figuring out a plan. Dave Ramsey, one of the things he says, if you don't tell your money where it's going to go, if you don't tell your money where you're going to spend it, your money will spend you, right? Like, money is going to be spent. And so do you want to be the boss of your money, or do you want the money to be the boss of you? So as we're kind of wrapping up this episode, if we've been talking the entire time about this episode, figure out a plan for yourself. Figure out, sit down, make a budget. Stuff is tight. Figure out, where you want to allocate your money, that kind of stuff. So money is definitely a subject that it's kind of sore for people. It's kind of frustrating to people. It's kind of embarrassing for some people. But we know that we're not alone. Everyone deals with money. Everyone has money. Some people struggle a lot. Some people struggle a little. There's no one that is blanket okay whenever it comes to all of this stuff. So we recommend just sitting down, figuring out your numbers, knowing your numbers, and making a plan for the future. We really appreciate you listening to this episode. We want you to head over to howtofilmweddings.com/shop, and there again you can pick up our budget sheet. If you use the promo code MONEY, MONEY, you can get that 50% off through the end of May 2020. Again, that promo code is MONEY, MONEY. You can get that for 50% off through the end of the month. Thanks so much for watching. I said that really weird, like watching. I'm a jackball. Thanks so much for watching this episode, listening on your favorite podcatcher, and until next time, we will see ya.
See ya.